Let's start in Ellicott City, Maryland, a quiet town with cobblestone charm local diners and one very old railroad trestle that runs right over Main Street. Everyone in town knows about it. And that's exactly the problem. It was August 20th, 2012, just before midnight. 19-year-olds Maya Collins and her best friend Rachel Monroe were walking side by side, arms brushing heads tilted back in laughter. It was their last night of summer. In the morning, Maya would head off to college in Pennsylvania, and Rachel would be leaving for Ohio. Two different directions, two different futures. So they decided to make this night count. They grabbed a couple of beers underage, sure, but it was more about nostalgia than rebellion, and made their way to the spot, the old railroad trestle above Main Street. Now this wasn't some hidden teenage dare spot. Everyone knew about it. Parents knew about it. Cops knew about it. And while they technically weren't supposed to be up there, the truth was everyone had done it, including Maya and Rachel plenty of times. The trestle was safe, or at least that's how people saw it. The actual train tracks were set far back from the edge, and there was a wide ledge where you could sit and let your feet dangle over Main Street below. You could even watch a train roar past behind you and never feel a gust of wind. So they climbed up. They settled onto the ledge shoes, swaying in the dark above the streetlights. Maya cracked open a beer. Rachel pulled out her phone to play music. They talked about their upcoming semesters, their roommates, what they were excited for, and how strange it felt to be separating after so many years of being inseparable. At one point, Maya leaned forward and snapped a photo of their legs hanging over the edge, a perfect summer memory. She uploaded it to Twitter, typed a caption, hit post. And then came the sound. A metallic, teeth-grinding shriek behind them. They turned, and something enormous struck them. Then nothing. But the train hadn't hit them. That's the detail that confuses people at first. Because the tracks were far enough back, the train should have passed safely, just like it had every other time. And it did pass safely. The train itself wasn't the problem. The problem was that part of the train derailed, just a partial derailment, nothing dramatic. A few of the cars tipped sideways, and those specific rail cars. They were open-topped. They were filled with coal, thousands of pounds of it. When the cars tipped, the coal poured out like a black avalanche, a river of crushing weight that spilled over the ledge where Maya and Rachel were sitting. It didn't matter that they weren't on the tracks. The coal swept across the trestle and buried them in an instant. By the time first responders arrived and dug them out, it was far too late. Maya Collins and Rachel Monroe, two bright college freshmen, were the only fatalities in the entire incident. The tweet Maya posted minutes before the accident, a snapshot of two pairs of legs floating in air above Main Street, would later be reposted hundreds of thousands of times. People called it haunting, beautiful, unknowingly final. Their families would go on to sue the railroad company for negligence. Each family received a private settlement, but the amounts were never made public. And of course, the money didn't bring the girls back. Ellicott City would never forget them. And the trestle, it's still there, still rusted, still real. Now we head south, Miami, Florida. Kinloch Park. A basketball court surrounded by tall chain-link fences and the hum of urban heat. It's October 27th, 2014. The sun's just gone down, but the lights are on. A group of teenagers are deep into a pickup game, shirts versus skins, sneakers, slapping concrete, laughter, and trash talk flying across the court. One of those players is 17-year-old Isaac Reyes, tall, athletic, with an easy smile. His team is up. Game's close. Tensions are high. Then one of his teammates panics, takes a wild three-point shot, and the ball thwacks, sails way off, and disappears over the back fence. Everyone groans, because everyone knows once a ball goes over that fence, it's pretty much gunt stum. But then one kid turns to Isaac and says, "Hey man, go get it." Isaac hesitates. He knows that fence. More importantly, he knows what's behind that fence. His parents had warned him since he was little, never ever climb it. But it's not just a suggestion anymore, it's a dare. More voices join in. "Man, it's just a fence, you scared." Isaac looks at them. He doesn't want to look soft, so he walks over. The fence is about 7 feet tall, barbed wire at the top. Isaac climbs carefully, swings a leg over, and drops down to the other side. He's fine. The ball is right there. He picks it up, throws it back to his friends, and they cheer. He smiles. Then, he notices something. Another basketball. Slightly older, scuffed up, sitting just beyond a second fence. Now remember, there's a reason his parents warned him. It wasn't just the first fence that was off limits. It was what came after. But Isaac thinks, "I've already done one. Why not two?" Without saying anything, he walks up to the second fence, climbs, swings over the barbed wire, drops down. He lands and immediately collapses. On the court, his friends start screaming. What Isaac had entered wasn't an empty lot. It was a live electrical substation, fenced off, heavily signed, and lethal. The second he touched the ground, his body connected with a live cable carrying 500,000 volts. For reference, a lightning bolt carries around 300,000 volts. Isaac was hit with more than double that. When paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could do. He died within seconds. It's April 22nd, 2023. A 49-year-old father named Carl O'Keefe is on his hands and knees crawling through a play tunnel in a cave-themed family center in Johnson City, Tennessee. His headlamp flickers slightly on the plastic walls in front of him. He's not panicking, not yet. Carl wasn't a professional explorer, but he loved adventure. Climbing, hiking, spelunking, anything that got his blood pumping. And more than that, he loved being a dad. That's actually how he ended up inside this cave system. It was his daughter's friend's birthday party. The venue was a big family activity center with slides, games, climbing walls, and most notably an indoor cave system for kids. The tunnels were narrow and dark, but made of soft plastic. Kids could crawl through them like hamsters in a tube maze. It wasn't supposed to be dangerous. It was supposed to be fun, and adults. They were allowed to go in too. There were signs that encouraged parents to join the adventure, so Carl did. At first it was just silly fun. He and the kids were laughing, calling out through the tunnels, bumping into each other at intersections. He even snapped a few pictures on his phone. Then at some point, Carl slipped into a narrower offshoot tunnel. The kids had scurried ahead, but he took a moment to explore a side path. It felt safe. Even when the walls started narrowing, Carl didn't think twice. He had crawled through tighter spaces outdoors, and this wasn't real rock. It was padded plastic, designed for children. Eventually, the tunnel reached a T-junction, left or right. Carl didn't have a map, but he wasn't worried. He could still faintly hear laughter and voices behind him echoing from the main room. So he picked a direction right and crawled forward. But this tunnel felt different. Each foot of movement got harder. The walls pressed closer. His shoulders scraped on both sides. He figured it was just a tight stretch, so he pushed on. Just a few more feet, and then dead end. Nothing but a blank wall of plastic. Carl chuckled at himself, then shifted to turn around. No big deal, except it was. He tried to perform a U-turn. It's something all cavers know how to do: contort your body in a small space, shift your limbs one at a time, turn yourself completely around. But this tunnel was narrower than he realized. He got his head turned, his shoulders, his torso. But when it came to getting his legs and hips to follow, they wouldn't move. He was stuck in a tight U-shaped angle, upper body facing back the way he came, lower body jammed sideways. Still not panicking, Carl took a breath. Okay, back it up, let's reset. He tried to reverse the motion. Tried to twist his torso back to its original position, but he couldn't. The space wasn't big enough. The way he had contorted had locked him in. For the first time, he felt fear. The air inside the tunnel was dry and warm. Suddenly it felt heavy. His heart rate rose. His breath quickened. The plastic walls were pressing against his chest. He started sweating, not from exertion, from fear. He called out, then again louder. Within moments, a couple of staff members heard him and rushed to the area. They crouched near the entrance to the tunnel and saw Carl's body jammed into the bend. At first they didn't understand. Then they tried pulling him. He didn't move. Not an inch. They called emergency services. Firefighters arrived and crawled in. But the structure was too tight for equipment, and Carl's position was too awkward. They couldn't get the right angle to extract him. They tried guiding his limbs, bracing his shoulders. Nothing worked. Minutes turned into hours. Carl stayed calm as he could. He focused on taking shallow breaths, but every second was harder than the last. His chest couldn't fully expand. His diaphragm was being compressed by the tunnel's shape. He started drifting in and out of consciousness. He wasn't bleeding. He wasn't even visibly injured. But his body was being crushed, slowly, silently. By the time rescuers freed him, 4 hours had passed. They rushed him to the nearest hospital where he was admitted to the ICU. But the damage was done. Carl had suffered extensive crush syndrome, muscle trauma, organ compression, and internal swelling. Despite everything doctors tried, he died 8 days later. What shocked the public wasn't just the fact that he died, it was where he died. This wasn't a deep cave in the wilderness. It wasn't a military-grade obstacle course. It was a kid's play tunnel inside a family center. The tunnel wasn't made of rock. It was made of plastic. It was supposed to be safe, but as Carl's story spread, experts weighed in. Turns out, adult bodies aren't meant for those spaces. Even though signs welcomed parents to explore, there had never been real safety testing done for adults in those tunnels. No one thought it would ever go that far, until it did. Carl's story became national news. It raised hard questions about corporate liability, the illusion of safety, and the quiet pressures parents feel to be part of the moment. But for his kids, it was just the day Dad never came back from the birthday party. And all he did was take a wrong turn. There's an island off the coast of Washington State that most people don't know exists, and those who do are told never to approach it. No boats, no flyovers, no visitors, because what's on that island isn't meant to be disturbed. In early 2021, 24-year-old Connor Bailey, an amateur photographer and hiking enthusiast, was visiting his cousin in Seattle. He had just gotten out of a rough breakup and decided he needed a reset, some air, some space, and maybe something new to explore. While scrolling through old Reddit threads about abandoned places, he came across a discussion about a tiny island a few miles off the coast called Camden Reef Island. It wasn't on many maps, but those who had heard of it said the same thing. Don't go there. Bad vibes. The locals don't talk about it. It's government-owned or cursed or both. Exactly the kind of thing that caught Connor's attention. The next morning, Connor rented a kayak. He packed light, a drone, 2 cameras, a life vest, water, and a GoPro clipped to his chest. When he asked the man at the rental shack about Camden Reef, the guy's face went blank. I wouldn't go there, he said. Why? Connor asked. Just, I wouldn't. Connor laughed it off. 10 minutes later, he was paddling into open water. The fog was thick. Seagulls circled overhead. For the first 20 minutes, nothing felt unusual. But the closer he got to Camden Reef, the quieter it became. The wind died. The water went glassy. Even the birds disappeared. The island wasn't big, maybe 2 acres covered in evergreens and driftwood. As he pulled his kayak up onto the shore, he noticed something strange. No footprints. No old beer cans, no fishing gear, nothing. It didn't look untouched. It looked erased. He turned on his GoPro and started walking. The trees were thin, but they formed a perfect arch over the narrow trail. Sunlight barely filtered through. Within minutes, he came across something that made him stop cold. A fence. Not a wooden one like you'd find on farmland, but a rusted chain-link fence about 6 feet tall running across the interior of the island. It was covered in moss, almost invisible until he was standing right in front of it. Attached to the middle was a metal sign written in faded red letters. U.S. government property, no trespassing, violators subject to arrest or worse. Or worse. Connor raised his camera, snapped a picture, and thought, okay, I'll just get one shot on the other side. So he climbed the fence. On the other side, everything was different. The trees were denser. The light was colder. The air smelled like copper. He walked only a few minutes before reaching what looked like an abandoned bunker entrance, a metal hatch built into a mound of stone and dirt. There were bolts on the door, but no lock. And on the door, scratched into the metal, were 3 words she never left. Connor felt a sudden chill. The camera in his hand started glitching. Static filled the screen. The GoPro on his chest turned off on its own. His phone black screen. He hadn't heard a single noise since landing. Just silence. At this point, Connor admitted to himself that something felt wrong. Really wrong. He turned around, retraced his steps to the fence, and climbed back over. When he got back to his kayak, it was gone. Gone. He stood there in disbelief. The tide hadn't risen. The kayak wasn't floating away. It wasn't buried. It was just gone. He scanned the beach for prints, for drag marks, anything. Nothing. Connor was reported missing 2 days later. Search teams scoured the surrounding waters. His cousin told police he had mentioned a secret island he wanted to check out. Authorities sent boats, helicopters. But no one ever found Camden Reef Island. Because here's the twist. There is no Camden Reef Island, not officially. No satellite imagery. No NOAA documentation. No local maritime records. Ask anyone in town and they'll either say it doesn't exist, or they'll just go quiet. But the photo Connor snapped of the sign that read, or worse, was recovered from his cloud backup. The last image he ever uploaded. Postscript, a familiar pattern. Connor's story isn't the first like this. In 1996, a pair of brothers from Olympia disappeared during a kayaking trip in the same area. In 1981, a Coast Guard pilot reported seeing unauthorized infrastructure on a non-mapped landmass, then later recanted. In 1954, a handwritten note was found washed ashore in a glass bottle. The only words legible were, "She's still here. She never left." No coordinates, no context, no names. What makes this story so terrifying isn't just that Connor vanished. It's that he may not have been the first person to go there. Just the first person in decades to try and come back.